In our last section, we talked about the molecular biology of the gene. And in this section, we skipped a couple. We're going to talk about how populations evolve. So how are those genes expressed? There's a creature called a blue-footed bobby, and it has these kind of remarkably blue feet. And it lives in the Galapagos Islands. This animal has many evolutionary adaptations. These are specialized characteristics, like its body and bill streamlined like a torpedo when it wants to dive to catch fish. It can use its large tail to brake, and its large webbed feet make great flippers. An inherited trait. These are inherited traits that enhance the ability of the blue-footed bobby to survive and reproduce in its particular environment in the Galapagos Islands. Darwin developed his theory of evolution while on his visit to these islands. While there, he observed many unique organisms. A lot of Darwin's main ideas can be traced back to the ancient Greeks. But Aristotle and Judeo-Christian culture believes that species are fixed and unchanging. And the Earth is only about 6,000 years old. This is a young Earth theory. Century prior to Darwin, though, things were beginning to change. People were beginning to study fossils, and the fossils suggested that life forms could change. They were not completely fixed. Geologists were proposing that the Earth was very old, and in a book called The Principles of Geology, Charles Lyell wrote that the Earth was affected by gradual processes and gradually changed. While on his voyage of His Majesty's ship Beagle in the 1830s, Charles Darwin observed a great diversity of life in the Galapagos Islands, and he noted that there were similarities between living and fossil organisms. Organisms living nearby resemble each other more than organisms living in similar environment but elsewhere. Geographic proximity is a better predictor of relationships among organisms than similarity of environment. So this is a map of some of the places that His Majesty's ship Beagle went. One of the most important places we'll be talking about is the Galapagos Islands right here off the coast of South America. So Darwin proposed that natural selection as a mechanism of evolution. And a couple things he noted is that organisms produce more offspring than the environment can support. And the offspring that are produced vary in many characteristics, and those characteristics are inheritable. So he reasoned that a natural selection would favor some traits over others, and the more favored traits would appear more, and the less favored would appear less in ensuing generations of organisms. Now, it's important to note here the environment is doing the selecting in natural selection. It's natural. People aren't doing it. And species do not evolve because of need. Biological diversity exists, and the environment selects. Evolution is not deliberate. It is reactive. Birds don't evolve wings, like they get together and decide to get wings. Wings evolved in birds. Okay, so let's look at the evidence that Darwin found in artificial selection. And when people breed animals or plants, we can get all sorts of different sizes of dogs. If you want a large dog, you get two big dogs, breed them together, and you'll get an even larger dog. As a puppy, if you want a miniature poodle, you breed miniature dogs together until you get a smaller and smaller dog. The rock pigeon is the basic bird that results in all of these 4 different kinds of pigeons. And this is selective breeding that's done by people under a fairly short time frame. So Darwin's proposed that living species all descended from earlier life forms and that natural selection is a mechanism of evolution. He called his theory descent with modification, which explains that all life is connected by common ancestry and descendants have accumulated adaptation to changing environments over vast periods of time. And here we have a common ancestor canine, and through thousands of years of natural selection, or millions actually, it says here, we get a wolf, we get a fox, we get a jackal, we get a coyote, and we get a wild dog. I think from here we get our regular dog. Darwin wrote a book called The Origin of the Species. And he used it to put forth his theories. We're going to look now at the evidence for evolution. We find evidence in the fossil record. We find it in biogeography, comparative anatomy, comparative embryology, and molecular biology. So we're going to look at each one of these real quickly. The study of fossils provides strong evidence for evolution. Fossils, bones, teeth, or molds, sometimes even footprints. Most plants and animals decompose rapidly, but some are preserved. And the imprints or remains of organisms that lived in the past is what makes a fossil. And they reveal that there are differences between past and present organisms, and reveal that many species have become extinct. The fossil record reveals the historical sequence in which organisms evolved. The earliest fossils of life are about 3.5 billion years old. Many fossils link early extinct species to species living today, and this is a common example used. This is a horse. This is the modern horse here, and here are the animals that led up to a horse, to the modern day horse. And you can see how the jaw line has shaped. It's changed through the years, and you can also see how this long extra toe got shorter and then finally disappeared. So slight modification through many years. Biogeography is the geographic distribution of species. I mentioned this before, but Darwin noted that the species that he found in the South America, Galapagos Islands, resembled the species of South America more than the animals on similar but distant islands. So they tend to look like animals that live nearby. Comparative anatomy is the comparison of body structures in different species. And when we study these different species, we find homology. That is a similarity in characteristics that come from a common ancestry. Homologous features are features that often have different functions, but are structurally similar. So we see a person, the fingers look like fingers, but in a cat, the fingers have been shortened and they're together to make a paw. In a whale, the fingers, those same finger bones, and sometimes you can even count in there the same number of bones and things, make a fin. And here, the same bones make part of a wing. Oops. Got a glimpse of my granddaughter there. Comparative embryology is the comparison, kind of like comparative anatomy, but now they're doing it on embryos. So many vertebrates will have common embryonic structures, vaginal pouches and a post-annual tail, even though chicks don't have tails. Molecular biology is the comparison of the DNA or amino acid sequences between different organisms, and that can reveal evolutionary relationships as well. This is a graph. The top is 100%, 100%, and that's human. Chimps are very similar genetically to people. They have 99.6% identical sequences. Cattle, 97.7%. They're mammals, fairly closely related. Dogs, rhesus monkeys, mice. When we get down to chickens, we get 82%. A zebra, a fish, has a 60% same. And plants are not very identical. So all of this leads us to evolution. In addition, scientists can observe natural selection in action. Camouflage adaptations evolve in different environments as examples of natural selection. So both of these, this and this, are both mantises, like the praying mantis that you might have in your garden. But they've adapted. This one looks like a flower, and this one looks exactly like a leaf. That's not a leaf. That's actually the insect there. Development of pesticide resistance is also an example of natural selection in action. Here we have this diagram. We have some of the insects have this red gene that confers a resistance to the pesticide. So we spray the pesticide, all these animals die. The only ones left to reproduce are the survivors, and they pass their resistant gene to all of the survivors. And so the next time you spray, your spray is completely ineffective. Okay, it's important to note a couple of key features. Although natural selection occurs through the interactions between an individual organism and the environment, individuals do not evolve. Rather, the population or the group of organisms evolves over time. Natural selection can amplify or diminish only heritable traits that are already present. Natural selection is contingent upon time and place, favoring those heritable traits in a varying population that fit the current and local environment. Evolution is not goal-directed. It does not lead to perfectly adapted organisms. Consequently, scientists regard Darwin's concept of evolution by means of natural selection as a theory, a widely accepted explanatory idea that is broader in scope than a hypothesis, generates new hypothesi, and is supported by a large body of evidence. Okay, in the next section we'll be looking at the evolution of populations.